Okay, so the other day we made a video talking about some of the crazy things that we might have found in some of the prototype datas in Pokemon, but here's something else to think about that's actually kind of interesting though. So when Pokemon Gen 1 came out, there were reasons to believe that there were obviously more than 151 Pokemon, and there's some things even to this day that, don't make sense, but maybe in a way they still do. We just might have to dig around for long enough. And enter the Pokemon Doduo. It's possible that Doduo originally had 3 heads when it was a baby chick, and then it evolved into 2 heads, and then later off it split into 3 heads. And so for the longest time, a lot of people have often thought, how is it that this made sense, though? Well, first of all, Doduo is like a Siamese twins, and at the same time, though, it is a dodo bird. Dodo birds are pretty interesting as far as like what their recorded nature is. But anyways, let's kind of talk about this. Okay, so even though it's not technically canon now, because like some of the Pokemon that they have, like if you go to Gen 2's prototype, there was a Pokemon that started with an H, and it was a baby chick. It basically was a nest, and that's what their body was. Three heads, 1 body. Okay, so the problem with Doduo is that it has 2 heads. So while the baby version of Doduo doesn't technically exist, but let's just say for Game Freak's purpose that this is how they originally designed the concept. How did they do a workaround on this? Well, so Doduo has 2 heads. There's a pecking order, obviously, but when it evolves into Dodrio, one of the heads splits. I always thought it was the middle one, and then the other one's sad, the one that's been fully grown, and it's probably been reintroduced to its body, so that way the 2 birds that originally were there from before, understandably so, are going to, have a better relationship with each other and higher up on the pecking order than, like, let's say, the one at the very bottom. So it's very possible that, when a Pokemon evolves, its genetics change, its physical appearance, so it can grow another head and it can split off, it can grow an extra pair of lungs. Sadly, there's no extra legs, though, so there's, not everything in its body is times 3. But what's really interesting, though, is maybe originally Nintendo actually had or Game Freak had the original concept that when Doduo evolved, maybe the reason why it went down to, the reason it would evolve into Doduo was because the Pokemon probably ate one of the Pokemon, or maybe the other head was hiding in the fur body that it had, and then as it went on, it finally grew up, and then it eventually did that. So it went from 3. It looked like it was 3, and then 2, and then 3 again. But really, maybe there was more to that story than just that. So I do think, yeah, that's possible they could have done that. But at the same time, though, I mean, the story still kind of makes sense. Like if a Pokemon was to evolve, obviously its genetics change, but its body changes too. So a Pokemon such as like Doduo obviously can split a head, and it obviously has more than one organ. So the concept that a Pokemon, its biology would actually very well still be the same then. So I do think that is true in that slightest. So, because again, if you think about it, when a Pokemon evolves, not only does its genetics change, but you also have, there's different characteristics about it too. So, maybe there's different concept arts. And I still do think, like, going back to the missing no numbers, I do think 115 was the baby chick's Pokemon of Doduo, because it's next to Dodrio, and all the other ones in period 4 are basically like the same, like, they're right next to their evolutionary line. So it's either 1 or something else. It has to be, but whatever it is. 135 is definitely a baby Kangaskhan, though, I still do think, and 121 I do believe is also that one Pokemon that we were trying to figure out, or whatever index number it was. It was between those 2. It's got to be between Bloatel and Pokraken. It's got to be like a squid Pokemon. But the thing is, though, I think what they did was, because when Gen 3 came out, Gen 3 had, there was reasons to believe that there was 3 family evolutions, at least. That's why they had so many Pokemon. Now, some of these Pokemon could have been ideas that they had, but they put them in Gen 2's prototype. A good example would be, like, there was a lot of baby Pokemon that were supposed to be in Gen 1, but they scrapped them because they probably were thinking, well, maybe we should save it for Gen 2, where, we can introduce them breeding and all that. And it made sense. How do Pokemon reproduce? They have sex, right? Okay. They show love, right? It's a love interest thing. It makes sense, That's why Pokemon had a lot of realism in it, and a lot of stuff was based on something, So I think that's what Satoshi Tajiri was trying to tell us with all this. There's always something, but so anyways, Yeah, there's a lot of ideas they still have, but we're still trying to figure out what index numbers 192 all the way to 299 are. It's debatable, but it's weird because like I look at the index numbers as I make this video. I'm probably doing math wrong somewhere, but I swear it's weird. Like there's 6 missing that are missing, right, from the game's coding, but somehow we're supposed to believe that there's only 5 missing, and I'm like, well, no, that doesn't make sense, because I mean in the index number it goes up to 196, and then but we stop counting after 191. So even when you count to 191, that's 186 plus 5 is 191. It's not 192 plus 6, but it's interesting though, because I mean I don't know where I'm going wrong with counting this, but I know there's 6 missing that we still have left, because you've got the missing there's 115, 121, somewhere around there, 135, and then you have missing 182, 183, and 184, or somewhere around there. And those were filled in with the missing from the Aerodactyl fossil, the Kabutops fossil, and then obviously the Ghost fossil. But who knows if that really was their placeholders at one point? Because again, if Satoshi Tajiri and them said that they originally designed Pokemon that were supposed to be 300 and they cut it off, and there was originally 191 monsters that were designed for that, then that means we're still missing 6 Pokemon. But what Pokemon are we missing though? It just doesn't make sense, right? So there's got to be more to that story, and there is, but it's got to be something on my end that I'm missing though, because I know Satoshi Tajiri and them were telling the truth, because they didn't have any reason to lie. It's just they know stuff we don't know, but what did they recycle it into? We don't know, and even if we did know, what concept arts did they look like? That's the prototype data that people really want to know. That's the idea behind it. How much did the games change over time? All you have to do is start asking a bunch of questions, and I swear you'll eventually find yourself in a way you could like organize this somehow. It'd drive you nuts too trying to figure it out. Like here's one for you that's really interesting. I was actually looking at Cryothin again. Cryothin, Skimper, and Beluga. The ones that Lance actually used. Well, what's really interesting is those were technically the only water dragons in the Pokemon games, but they were never in the final version of the games. Now, obviously, these Pokemon have been recycled from Gen 2's prototype data all the way up to Gen 8's water type, Sobble, for example, I believe. And they sort of changed the later evolution to like a James Bond figure, like a stealth ninja, kind of like Greninja being a ninja, but more of a ninja, But that's what it was, though, But Sobble wasn't a dragon Pokemon, though. It was kind of like a water lizard, though. It is a water lizard, So I would not be surprised that's where they got the concept for it. But anyways, so here's where it gets strange, though. Here's the dead end that we're at, though. Let's say Cryothin. This goes back to what I was saying before. How many more legendary Pokemon could they have had that were scrapped from Gen 1? We don't know. Not yet, at least. Because we don't have them numerically ordered, like not in the national Dexter, but in the, you know what I mean? It's just a bunch of stuff we still have to figure out. But so, anyways, I think we'll figure it out one day, but we're still looking for it though. But it's interesting to think because what I want to know now, but I don't know how to hack these files. Like I don't know where to find them in the game's coding, So I would have to really look around and see. I'd have to guesstimate, try to get keep rolling the dice and see if I can get like a high stat. See the highest stat I could obtain, but it seems right now I'll do one in a comparison. I'll see what I come up with, like something like Dragonite, or even I'll compare it to Dragonite stats. I'll see if I can get it even higher than Dragonite stats. But it's like if Cryothin's like a water dragon type, I mean, keep in mind, Dragonite, you had Dragonair, Dratini, Dragonite, which were the only dragon Pokemon in Gen 1 that we know of. Okay, so if that was the case, they were obviously able to learn a move called Mega Fire, which later was changed to Dragon's Breath in Gen 1, or Gen 2. So if that's the case, then yeah, we've already proven a few things, like dragon type moves were super effective against dragon types. They also did, but if they were legendary Pokemon, but what about Cryothin then? Is it possible Cryothin could have been a legendary Pokemon because you could catch more than one of it? And here's something else I noticed. I was wrong about saying this the other day, but apparently Dratini in the prototype, as far as I'm aware, was actually not in the the Rocket Coliseum, you couldn't catch it you couldn't get it in the Rocket Coliseum. It's like you had to go to the Safari Zone and get it with a super rod and all that, if I remember correctly. I'll still have to try my luck with that, but you could actually catch Dratini normal circumstance. And then there's a glitch you can use with the missing no glitch. You don't actually have to use the missing no glitch, but it requires that you go and like run into a Dratini and then go surfing along Cinnabar Island, making sure you don't run into any other Pokemon, and you'll run into the Pokemon that are in the Safari Zone. You can actually catch Pokemon in the Safari Zone, because it's loading from that folder, and you don't actually have to use like it uses like the same encounter rate because it's pulling the same data from the last check-in folder, I believe. I'll have to check it out, but I was having somebody tell me this the other day, and I just thought that was just crazy. So we'll have to see how that works, but that's a cool way to get Dratini, then, definitely, for what it's all cracked out to be. But even something like Cryothin and all that, Pokemon like that are just like, wow, man. Like, to think that there were other dragon Pokemon, because I always wondered the same thing. Like, in Gen 1 there were supposed to be more ghost type Pokemon, but we only got 3 ghost type, that we know of, and they were all weak against, they're supposed to be like, they were supposed to be powerful against psychic Pokemon, but Ghastly was a poison type. Its whole family was, so it was weak against psychic Pokemon. That's why you couldn't use it against, what I mean? That's why, like, maybe Giovanni had the right idea, when he wanted to go catch Mewtwo. Why did he need the Stealth Scope? If you want to jump into that theory, well, maybe that's why he was originally doing it, because he was trying to figure out how he could get, like, some of these other Pokemon, but he didn't know how to see the ghosts, though. But, he only found Ghastlies, Haunters, and Gengars, but you couldn't catch Gengar in the final version, at least, that I know of, but, well, outside the Mew glitch, anyways. But, or cheating, rather. But, probably because it wasn't finished yet. It wasn't in the game's coding. So, and Agatha, believe it or not, didn't use ghost type Pokemon, so that's actually interesting. Oh yeah, here's something else interesting too. Apparently the TM Brock gives you is not Bind, it's actually Rock Throw. Believe it or not. I did not know that until like the last time I was playing the game. I forgot to mention that. So yeah, there's that. But like I said, we're still digging into this. There's tons of stuff, but I really want to know if Cryothin was a legendary. So we'll look into it and see what its base stats are total. But if I can find some very good examples of it being like more than a legendary, because keep in mind this was the concept they were using, that you could catch legendary Pokemon more than once, and obviously you could catch Dratini more than once and then evolve it into Dragonite. It takes a while, but it does happen though. Especially if you're playing on an emulator, you can just throttle through everything. So that's cool. But yeah, Cryothin would be an interesting legendary because it could learn Dragon-type moves, and, Lance used them too, so that would have been very interesting. Now, and keep in mind, here's something else that's interesting. People were actually telling me that, if they had Dragon and Water types in Gen 1, they would have been problems to kill. But here's the funny thing. In Gen 1, they never programmed the game. Like, Dragon Pokemon are still super effective against Ice types. So if you're using a Dragon type and it's a Water type, you can use that. And the same thing with Fire types. Like, not Fire types against Dragons, but if you were to use an Ice attack against a Water type Pokemon, or no, if I got it right, a Dragon type Pokemon that's a Water type, or a Flying type that's a Fire type, they're still super effective because they're not programmed to do. It's not very effective times, like, so you have like the dual type where it's like ×2 and then ×0.5, so it goes back to normal damage. Doesn't do that. I was trying it out on one of those solo runs, if you've seen it. I did it against Charizard and against Articuno. Apparently Charizard is weak against Ice type moves. If you were to try this in Gen 3, it does not work, because that's not how it works. I think they fixed it in Gen 2, because I know that Gyarados, for example, see, that was what threw me off over the years. When I was saying, you might remember I made a video on this channel where I said that Gyarados was a Dragon type. That's why I always thought Gyarados was a Dragon type, is because Lance used it, but I never checked its type. I always forgot it was a Water and a Flying type, because it was super effective. Because I thought Dragons were weak against Ice, and they are. But so are Flying types and Water types. You see, I was always under the impression that if you were to use Ice types against Water types, it's not very effective damage. But how is it that Ice Beam and Blizzard and Powdered Snow, believe it or not, in Gen 1, the prototype data at least, it's super effective against Gyarados? It shouldn't be. It should do normal damage against Gyarados, because it's a Water and a Flying type. Makes sense. So that is interesting to think about. And yeah, Dragon type Pokemon really are still powerful, but they got their weaknesses, you know. Even if it takes another 20 levels, I mean, those Pokemon will come tumbling down if you knock their health down enough. But so I guess Lance wasn't truly indestructible, because a couple trainers did end up beating him here and there, but he still beat most people though. So anyways, so yeah, again, I'll do more solo runs. I'll look into this. I'll make videos about it. But again, if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe. If you want to send me money, let me know. I take Amazon gift cards, or something else. But anything you send me, it'll go into this channel somehow. Not only that, but yeah, just if you have any requests, let me know. We'll just keep going. But I don't know, it's weird. Like, Pokemon is a series that no matter how many ideas you dig into, it seems like you find even more of them. There really is no end to what you can find, you know. So there really is material there to work with, endlessly at least.